I've been talking for half an hour and my microphone wasn't on. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I can't believe I'm gonna have to do this again. I just did all of this, but if you're new here, welcome. Hi, hello, I'm Eric and I talk about movies or something. And if you're not new here, welcome back. Now, if you've seen my last video, you'll be thinking, wait a minute, this isn't 365 days. This day, I think that's the name of the second. Rest assured, I've watched it. I need a little break. Honestly, I need a little mental break, and I realized this is June. It's Pride Month. Why am I featuring a bunch of toxic straight people on my channel when I can just feature a bunch of toxic gay people on my channel in celebration, right? And now you're thinking, how the hell did we get to Knock at the Cabin by M. Night Shyamalan? Well, let me walk you through it. I was looking for movies online and I saw the trailer for The Watched. And I remember knowing that M. Night Shyamalan was somehow involved. Turns out I was wrong. It's his daughter. His daughter directed a thriller movie based on a book. And that reminded me that M. Night also directed a movie that was based on a book. And I had read that book, Cabin at the End of the World, by Jacob Tremblay. Something like that. And when I saw that he had been announced as the director, I thought, okay, he's absolutely going to change the second half of the story, obviously. And I was always curious to find out what he did with it, but then I just never got around to it. So now that it's Pride Month, we're celebrating gay stories. Probably not the best story to celebrate because there's not much to celebrate apart from another story that sacrifices the minorities to ensure the survival of the majorities. When is it ever going to be a white suburban couple? The ones voted most likely to succeed, the most popular kids in school. I'm getting sidetracked here. Now, M. Night likes to do his little plot twists, you know? It's either he's been dead all along and I see dead people, or, oh, the aliens invading Earth are allergic to water. I'm not overly familiar with all of his work, but I know that The Last Airbender was meant to be based on the anime, right? I don't know much about the original Avatar. I just know The Last Airbender was objectively a horrible movie. Not even knowing the source material, but people that have read the source material can also confirm that it was an atrocity, right? So this is, in my eyes, his second adaptation of previously existent work. It was the screenplay already existed based on the book, and then M. Night went in there and just worked his magic and polished that turd. Knock at the Cabin follows Andrew and Eric, a gay couple in their late 30s, early 40s, and they're spending a long weekend on a cabin in the woods with their daughter, Wen. And one day, a group of 4 strangers break into their home, tie them up, and tell them the end of the world is coming, the apocalypse, and the only way for it to stop is for them to willingly sacrifice one of their own. So either Daddy Eric, Daddy Andrew, or Wen. One of them has to willingly give up their life so the rest of the world can continue. The moral dilemma, the conundrum. What will you do? And I get that some people will have the immediate inclination to go, I would sacrifice myself. We're talking about the entire world. But would you really? Let's think about it, right? What are we really saving? Because the world is currently on a downward spiral to poop town. We have so much poop around us that soon enough we're not going to have any space to breathe outside of this poop, right? But morals aside, the book itself presents a moral dilemma that is never fully answered because it relies on ambiguity to convey its message. We never fully know what is real and what is not, much like the characters. It's that eternal question of, is it real? Is it coming? Are they telling the truth? Those are the questions that plague the entire narrative from beginning to end. And in the book, they never give a fully realized explanation for any of the questions. They always leave it very ambiguous because the characters are forced to deal with that ambiguity. So why would we as viewers be any different, right? Treat your audiences like you treat your employees. Like whereas in the movie, M. Night, for as much potential and as many great ideas as he's had in the past for like interesting narratives and stories, he has a tendency to just take the cowardly route. I'm going to call it right now. This was the cowardly route. Because if you've read the book, you know what happens. Like, you know the event that really turns the story on its head and changes completely the narrative. And if you've watched the movie, then you know that M. Night just shoved that tail up his own bum because he couldn't bear the cojones it takes to put it out there in its true, purest form. He sanitized the story. It's like the movie is the Disney you know and see in the parks and on TV, and then the book is the actual Disney, the behind the scenes, all the bad they do that makes people want to boycott them all the time. But I also like the use of religion. I always like when they use religion to really show us how far some people would go or will go for their faith, whatever. Because I grew up very religious, Christian, Catholic, my uncle is a priest. Like, they're all very religious, and I used to have to be. I used to go to church every Sunday. I was baptized. I did the first communion. Ugh, when I think about it. I'm an atheist now, thank God. I've woken up. And if you need a book to tell you how to be a good person, then I'm sorry, but your moral compass is broken. Everyone has their way of dealing with stuff in life, so if religion is your go-to, go for it. As long as you don't make it toxic for anyone. And a lot of people don't, and that's great. That's what we love to see. So let's get to the story. There's going to be an ad break. If you support gay rights, then you're going to watch the whole thing. And if you don't, well, let me know in the comments why. I'll read them. I'll cry if they're mean, but I'll read them. Also, quick note, I'm going to leave the timestamps on this video so you can jump from movie to book to ending to final thoughts. So just pick your fancy, whatever you want to go to. There's going to be timestamps below and you can just follow that. Also, follow me on my social media. I am very funny on Instagram. And my dogs are very, very prominent on my TikTok. And X I just use to spy on people, so not going to give that one out. But yeah, also subscribe to my channel and like this video, even if you don't like it. Who cares? It's just a click. Also, comment down below what other M. Night Shyamalan movies I could talk about in the future. There's quite a few that are absolute dumpster fires, and I just can't wait to pick a new one. So, quick ad break. I'll see you real soon. Unless you have YouTube Premium, you rich bitch. The story follows Andrew and Eric. Andrew, played by Ben Aldridge, hot, and Eric, played by Jonathan Groff. Side note, I've had the longest crush on Jonathan Groff, so if he ever sees this, if this ever goes viral and he ever sees this, Jonathan, what's up? And they're spending a long weekend or something, a retreat, on a cabin in the woods with their daughter, Wen. Wen was adopted, and the movie actually opens with her outside in the garden playing with grasshoppers. She's catching them and putting them in a jar and categorizing them. And she's approached by an adult man, a beast of a person, Dave Bautista playing Leonard, who is by far the best casting choice of this movie. Even though in the book he's 24 and in real life he's 54, the way he plays this character is so spot on with what is described in the book. Honestly, I haven't been this impressed by a casting from book to movie since Gone Girl. Obviously not as good as Rosamund Pike. Let's put some respect on that woman's name. But this role is very, very aptly cast. So Leonard approaches Wen, and he's very gentle, very kind, which is a very contrast to his big, bulky, scary appearance. And he tells her that him and his friends need to ask her parents to make a very tough choice, the most important decision of their lives. And even though it's going to be difficult, he just wants her to know that, you know, they're not there to harm them. They are there basically in peace. And Wen sees his friends approach and they all have these medieval old weapons. She runs back into the house to warn her parents, Andrew and Eric. And at first, obviously, they think it's a joke, but they quickly realize that actually there are 4 intruders coming into the house with medieval weapons. They try to reason with them through a locked door. They try to block the locked door, but eventually realize the phone lines have been cut and they are actually coming into the house from a back door, from the basement, from the front door, etc. There's 2 fights that ensue. Daddy Eric, Jonathan Groff, my angel, confronts one of the intruders, Sabrina. He gets knocked on the floor and has a concussion on his head. Andrew, on the other hand, my God, what a man. He fights Redmond and he beats the shit out of him, and the whole time, flooded basement. But then Leonard enters and he's obviously like a walking wardrobe filled with bricks. So they tie up Eric and Andrew to 2 chairs, and Leonard is like the head of this group of people. And there's 4 intruders. There's Leonard wearing a white shirt. There's Redmond wearing a red shirt. There's Adrian wearing a black shirt. And there's Sabrina wearing a pale yellow shirt. From the get-go, Leonard makes an effort to like try and calm everyone down, bring everyone to like a more rational state of mind, and then he proceeds to explain why they're there. And basically, these 4 people have all had shared visions of an apocalypse. They've seen the visions and they've felt compulsions to do certain things like create these weapons and buy tickets to travel here. This is all very, very thoroughly explained in the book, by the way. There's a whole chapter dedicated to the point of view of either Adrian or Leonard, and it basically shows us how much the compulsion took over whenever they tried to fight it. The whole time they had this intense feeling of having to do certain things, and if they didn't, they would sort of like black out and end up doing them anyway, and then wake up and not remember or something like that. It was really weird. But basically, these 4 people, they claim that they went there because they felt a compulsion, because the apocalypse, the end of the world is coming, and the only way to stop it is for one member of this family that was going to be in this cabin to willingly sacrifice themselves for the greater good. Now, you hear that for the first time, y'all, you're batshit crazy, get out of my house, right? But Andrew and Eric are tied up, and at this point, Eric starts to kind of hallucinate a little bit because he hit his head, he has a concussion, and Leonard and his group refuse to get a doctor because they really need them to make this decision consciously, rationally, and they are running out of time. The apocalypse is coming, and it's coming fast. We also get some flashbacks of Andrew and Eric's past. We see that Andrew's parents weren't really approving of his relationship with Eric, and that they had to lie about their relationship in order to adopt Wen from an orphanage. It's established that they've had to go through their hardships to get to where they are, and the world hasn't always been the kindest to them. And the group tries a tactic to convince them that they are ordinary people. They take turns doing expository verbal diarrhea that M. Night Shyamalan is so known for. But in this case, I'm not going to blame him because this does happen in the book. But we get a quick sense of who each person is. Adrian is a cook, Sabrina is a nurse, Leonard is a teacher, and Redmond is just angry at the world. He wants to get everything over with. He's very, aggressive. And so they present the couple and their daughter with a choice. Do you want to sacrifice someone or not? And they say no outright. Very smart. Anyone would do that in this situation. It's almost a given that the first answer is going to be no. But then, with their answer, Redmond stands up, walks over to the front of them ritualistically, gets on his knees, puts a white cloth over his head, and then the other 3 take turns in killing him, bludgeoning him to death. And as Redmond is getting killed, Eric sees a vision, a glare, he's not sure if it's light or if it's a reflection of a light on a mirror. He sees something, and that's when Eric's mental state starts going downhill very fast. In the book, we have a very defined sense of how quickly he's losing his mind, how quickly he's running out of strength to even think, let alone stay awake. It's a lot. So he's not in the best state of mind to make a decision of this magnitude. Not taking into account that Eric is that ex-Mormon gay guy who's just come out 3 years ago and already has a child, a house, and a husband, because they go through the motions in record time. And Andrew comes across as the gay that's had it. He has had it. He's not going to take any more shit. You can tell that he used to be bullied. You can tell that he used to not fight back, and that probably ate him up inside. But Andrew's not fighting anymore. He's ready to go to war whenever. I mean, very obvious when he beat the shit out of Redmond. But now Redmond's dead, so who cares? Leonard turns on the TV and we see news reports of a tsunami hitting a coast somewhere in the Americas. I don't know. There was a huge earthquake, and Leonard basically says this is the first wave of the apocalypse. And it's heavily implied that anytime they say no to sacrificing one of them, these intruders are going to sacrifice one of their own to delay the apocalypse, but not stop it completely. So, they get a wave of something really bad happening, but it's not the end of the world yet, and they still have time. Oh, and did I mention that if the gays and their daughter choose not to sacrifice either of them, then the whole world, everyone will die, and they will be condemned to just roam the face of the earth on their own? But that's only if you believe in doomsday of the Bible. Andrew's the true cynic, and he says that they're watching pre-scheduled programming. Therefore, Leonard and his group of friends already knew what was going to happen. And this is where the ambiguity takes place. In the book, it's not as ambiguous in the sense that you get those chapters from the POV of the intruders, and you get to see what they're describing as having felt. But that doesn't necessarily change things in the sense that it establishes that they do feel compelled, but there's no guarantee that it truly is a compulsion from God. But even if it is, why would that change things? I'll get to explaining that later. They all spend the night in the cabin, and we quickly see each of them taking specific roles. Sabrina is the healer because she's a nurse. She patches Eric up the best that she can. And Adrian is nurturing. She's the cook, and she cooks a meal for Wen. Whereas Leonard is almost like the leader. You know, he guides the group. And Redmond is a dead body. This is also around the time that Andrew starts coming up with his own theory of what's happening, which is very reasonable. He recognizes Redmond as being Rory O'Bannon, a guy that attacked him a couple of years earlier in a hate crime in a bar. And he thinks that this is now a targeted hate crime because Rory ended up going to prison over the attack. So in Andrew's mind, this man is a homophobe. He got a group of friends and now they're taunting them for no reason, which, my guy, doesn't explain why Redmond just literally sacrificed himself in front of everybody, but okay. Like, let him get his theories out because he's cute. He deserves it. And the ambiguity furthers, it deepens. Like, are these people really telling the truth, or are they lying and just taunting a gay couple for no reason? You know, these homophobes, they gotta get their lick in. Fuck, you know. The day after, once again, they're asked the question, do you want to sacrifice one of your own? They say no. And it's Adrian's turn. Adrian has a very emotional speech. Her face, like, scares me. She is in the moment. She is in it to win it. And she goes on to say that she also has a son. She wants to save her son. And unfortunately, their selfishness isn't allowing her to save her son. And she's pissed about it. And I totally get it, you know? If you're a mom and you want to save your son and a couple of poofs is stopping you from saving your kids, you know, it's their fault, not the God that's forcing them to sacrifice one of their own. Duh. So they kill Adrian much like they killed Redmond, and this is where the story starts to differ. Because in the book, Adrian doesn't actually die like this. So pin this moment for a second because this is where things go their own way. Time for a quick ad break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss the rest of the movie and how it differs from the book and why the ending of the movie sucks ass. Okay? Thank you. See you soon. So, with Adrian dead, Leonard turns on the TV again, and this time there's a respiratory flu spreading. It's deadly to children. It's the new wave of apocalypse. Andrew continues his stance that this is pre-scheduled programming. They knew what was going to show on TV, which is why Leonard keeps looking at his watch. One might think that he's looking at his watch to check the timeline they have on the end of the world, but according to Andrew, it's because... But Eric starts going off the deep end and tells Andrew he saw a person. And that's not crazy talk, Eric. That's not the concussion. That's just, again, the ambiguity. Is Eric seeing things because he's concussed, or is he seeing things because his soul is being brought up to God? What? That doesn't make any sense. Is he seeing things because he's concussed, or is he seeing things because he's slowly losing his mind? Like that lady in The Mist who turned super religious and took over the entire supermarket. Remember that? That was crazy. They continue arguing, and at this point, Eric and Andrew have both tried to loosen their ropes, and they've managed. Eric throws himself on the floor, distracting everyone and giving Andrew a chance to slip out and go to the car because there's a gun there. Ooh, let's get guns into this. Sabrina chases after Andrew, and Eric has a very pathetic fight with Leonard. I don't know what he's trying to do. I don't know why he thinks he's going to get through this big man, but Eric, that is a cement wall. That is the same type of cement they use for dams to stop a whole river from flowing. There's a tense moment in the car. Andrew's trying to retrieve his gun. Sabrina stabs him on the side. Damn, Sabrina, you're really playing with your fucking life, because now Andrew turns, shoots at her, and she runs off scared. That's right, Sabrina, I got bullets. Andrew goes back in the house, and now he's got a gun. Leonard's like, oh, okay, we're outnumbered. We're outmatched by this man. Sabrina enters the house, charging at Andrew full force, and he turns to her, shoots her dead on the spot. Leonard hides in the bathroom, and then Andrew goes to check on him, and they presume that he escaped through a tiny window that he would never fit through. But turns out he's behind the shower curtain, obviously. Like, how did you think that this big burly man was gonna fit through that tiny hole?
Oh, you're never gonna get that big old head in this tiny hole.
Leonard turns the TV on again, and there's reports of upwards of 700 airplanes dropping from the sky like flies, which is an interesting choice, because in the book, there's only 7. I love how these prophecies all just knew we were going to have airplanes, and they were just going to start falling out of nowhere. It's just predicting the future. Leonard's now the last one alive, and he's kind of given up. You know, he's like, you know what? I've tried my best. I've given you all the information I had. I've done everything I felt like I had to due to this weird compulsion. I've explained to you what I've seen in my visions, and now my work is done. He resigns to his fate and tells them, once I'm gone, you will have a few minutes to save the world still if you want. After that, you might as well just start exploring the dead world you're gonna inherit. Yay. And again, up until this point, it's still very uncertain whether or not the end of the world is actually happening, or if it's just a series of mishaps being reported on TV that kind of align with Leonard's and his friend's timeline. It's not very set in stone yet, but Eric and Andrew have another conversation, and Eric's basically like full-on team prophecy. He tells him, look, it's true. We're all gonna die, and it'd be selfish for us not to sacrifice one of our own. And Andrew is very much my type of guy. He's like, why should we sacrifice ourselves for them? Half of the people we'd be saving kind of hate us and want us gone. And Eric's like, yeah, but that's just human nature, whatever. Like some bullshit about people deserving some understanding, or like not everyone is bad, or you know what? This is why I like The Cabin in the Woods so much, because at the end, the characters make the decision that we want these characters to make all the time. Like, let the world go to let it burn. Actually, let me know if you want me to talk about that movie, because that is a masterpiece that people don't talk about enough. There's so many meanings and possible interpretations. But yeah, let me know if you want me to talk about The Cabin in the Woods in the future. But for now, I side with Andrew, because in my own experience, it's very difficult to feel sympathetic for an existence, a reality that you've always known as hostile towards you. And obviously, some people have it worse than others, but you can't blame people for feeling a certain way. And I don't blame Andrew for being so selfish that he would rather see the entire world burn than have to kill his partner or his daughter or himself to save everyone. Like, yeah. Also, he makes a great point. What kind of God asks for this kind of sacrifice? Like, what is this the type of God that y'all want to pray for? Because if it is, then I'm not interested. And Andrew, I'm with you all the way up to there. But Eric has a concussion, and he's thinking crazy. So in the end, they're having a tear-filled goodbye because Eric's basically decided that he wants to go. And so he goes. Eric sacrifices himself and makes Andrew promise that he's going to take very good care of Gwen. He's going to give her the perfect life. Then he describes seeing them in the future, living a happy life. And this is actually a really sad moment, because it really got me thinking, like, damn, how hard it must be for each of them. Like, for Eric to know that he's going to miss on all of that. Like, his life is about to just cease to exist in a few seconds. And for Andrew to know that if he pulls the trigger, he's just going to never have Eric again. He's going to be responsible for taking Eric out. That's f***ed up, right? But anyway, he does it, and then he gets in a car with Gwen, and they drive, and they stop at a diner, and from the news reports playing, all of the catastrophes they've seen on TV are now subsiding, and people are recovering. They've avoided the end of the world just in time. Isn't it beautiful that the gays had to sacrifice themselves for the world to continue being homophobic? Woo! Now, let's talk about the book, because the book is so much better. So, straight away, where the book starts to differ is in the movie, Adrian gets sacrificed, and then Andrew and Eric break free. But in the book, they break free before Adrian is dead. So in the book, the only sacrifice that we see is Redmond. Andrew runs to the car, then either Adrian or Sabrina chase him. Anyway, that is quite similar. Then he goes back into the house. Adrian enters the house and charges at him the same way that Sabrina did in the movie. He shoots Adrian, and then Leonard and Andrew fight for the gun. Struggle. And in the middle of this struggle, y'all, this moment broke me. In the middle of the struggle, the gun goes off, and it accidentally hits Gwen, killing her. They kill Wen, and from then on, I had to stop reading for a couple of hours, and I had to like really assess how I was feeling because that hit me like a sucker punch. The entire time, Wen is this pure, innocent child that hasn't done harm to anyone. In the book, we see that even more in depth. We see parts of her past and how she feels in her own life, having been adopted, having two dads, having had a cleft palate, and having gone through a lot of surgeries and feeling self-conscious about her looks. It's very intense for such a young child to already have all of that in her mind, but even then, she was just filled with kindness and she was just a beautiful soul. So for them to accidentally kill her, out of everyone, the only pure soul in the story gets shot by accident. That was hard. Like, that was hard reading it, and I wish they had done that in the movie because it's such an important turning point in the story. Because from then on, Andrew is done. He's like, absolutely not. What? Like, he just lost his daughter. And in the movie, they try to give it a reason. Like, at one point, Leonard tells them, like, maybe your family was chosen because your love is so pure. And I truly believe that that's the case. Their love was so pure. It had to be something so unadulterated, something so beautiful and so picture perfect. And then it gets destroyed by a stray bullet. Like, wah! And this is when you see that the characters aren't actually bad people per se. They're just doing the best that they can with a compulsion they feel. Leonard feels so guilty, he just stops completely. He lets Andrew and Eric tie him up. Sabrina comes back from her whatever and sees Wen dead, and she decides enough is enough. She's not going to go through the plan anymore. She's done more than she ever wanted. She doesn't want to force them anymore. She wants to help them get out of this cabin and go back to their lives. So she kills Leonard because it's his turn. And then she promises to take Eric and Andrew to the truck that they use to get to that cabin. And it's really heartbreaking to read that Eric and Andrew just carry Wen's corpse in their arms because they don't want to leave her. And as they get to the truck, she hands them the keys and tells them, after I'm gone, you'll still have a few minutes to save the world if you want to. If not, that's with you, and takes her own life. Much like Leonard did in the movie, so they swapped the order of deaths. Eric and Andrew debate about it, but Andrew's like, no, them. We're not going to give them any more. There's, again, more ambiguity on whether or not Wen's accidental death could count as a sacrifice, because how awful is it that she dies by accident, and they still need a sacrifice, so she died for nothing. So it's no surprise that Andrew decides not to go through with anything. And the book ends with them just continue walking. They hold hands and they're like, it's you and me against the world. And they're carrying their daughter in their arms and they just keep on walking and walking and walking. And the book ends and we never know if the world actually ended. It's heavily implied that the apocalypse is actually happening. And since they didn't sacrifice either of them, it will happen and it will kill everyone. And that's how it ends. And I think that's so beautiful and poetic. As sad and hopeless as the ending is, what is the alternative? What M. Night did? Girl, come on. First of all, he removes all the ambiguity of the story, right? So there's no room for interpretation. The beauty of the book is that you never know what is actually happening, what is actually not. You don't know if the world is actually ending. You don't know if a sacrifice will actually stop it. You don't know if Redmond is actually the guy that attacked Andrew all those years ago, because in the book, they keep it unknown. In the movie, they give full confirmation that it was him. It was Rory O'Bannon. Andrew finds his driver's license and he's like, see, told you, he's the guy that attacked me. And Leonard's like, oh, but that doesn't mean anything. But it does. It does. It's a detail that you clarify in the movie for no reason other than making it stupid. And then to take away these gays' agency of saying f you to the world and give us a sanitized Hollywood ending. Yeah, sure. In the movie, Wen is still alive and the couple probably wants her to have a good life. Therefore, they sacrifice one of their own so she can have a life in a world with people. In the book, because she's already dead, they're like, well, we're not killing one of us for them. Might as well all go. Let's all burn in hell, bitch. Let's do it. It's just annoying because it takes away all of the emotional catharsis. Do you know what I mean? You take away the sad, hopeless ending that gives gays some power back and lets them say, F you. And what are you left with? What is the point of this story? What, that random people are just having to sacrifice themselves so the world keeps on going? Also, why this gay couple? This is actually something that pissed me off a little bit because it makes so much sense to use a gay couple specifically in this scenario because there's all the implications of gay people, religion. It's a very rocky situation at times, most times. So it's an even bigger question mark on what they will do. I mean, why would a gay couple sacrifice themselves for a religion that actively tells us that we're not welcome? Which again is the result of purposeful misinformation because they translated the Bible years and years and years ago and they just kept mistranslating stuff so they could put in their own agenda in there. Like for example, a man shall not lie with another man like he lies with a woman, when the original is actually a man shall not lie with a child like he lies with a woman, which I think we can all agree on, right? Like he shan't, he shouldn't, he won't, he can't. It's bad. But when you swap that word, you stop condemning pedophiles and you start demonizing gay men. I found it so poignant to have a gay couple at the center of the story, to then go on and read an interview of the author, and he's like, oh, actually, it wasn't that intentional. I just wanted to honor two men that I know in my life that have been early supporters of my career, my uncle and my cousin, so I wanted to kind of pay homage to these two men, and I'm like, really? That was the only reason you made them gay? So you would have written this story with a straight couple. How would that have gone? Like, we already have the Bible. We already know the story of Mary and Joseph and Jesus. We already know how Jesus sacrificed himself. Would that have been the story? Would we have a Wen that is actually an Arthur, son of Eloise and Jeffrey, and then one of them sacrifices themselves on the cross and it's Jesus 2.0? I don't know, call me stupid, but the story in the book worked because of the ending. And the story in the movie didn't work because M. Night Shyamalan, because the ending, and because M. Night just had to do his little M. Night-isms. I almost forgot the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right. So remember when I said they were all wearing shirts of a different color? So they all represent horsemen of the apocalypse. And Eric talks about them as representing the 4 facets of humanity, and he calls it malice, nurturing, healing, and guidance, which is like the opposing forces of the actual 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, except for malice. So malice is war, conquest is guidance, nurturing is famine, and healing is death. So Redmond wearing the red shirt, he is both malice and conquest. Red, the color of passion and anger and violence. Then you've got Leonard wearing a white shirt. He is both conquest and guidance. Conquest because he conquers the cabin, but also guidance because he is the leader of the group. He's also a teacher. He's a mentor. Then you have Adrian wearing a black shirt, though some could call it a dark blue shirt. Kind of undecided, but she's both famine and nurturing because she's a cook. She cooks meals. She nurtures the troops. But if you take away the food, then there's famine. People die. People starve. And then you've got Sabrina wearing pale yellow, or as it's described in the book, off-white, grayish, pale color. And she is both healing and death. Healing because she's a nurse. She heals Eric back to health. She takes care of the troops. But also death, because take away the nurse, and who's going to patch Eric up? He's going to die of that concussion. There's other symbolisms, but this is the more in-your-face. So I thought it was just interesting to go through them. But yeah, that was the first Pride Month video. I will be away for a week very soon, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to post as regularly as I usually do. I might have just like a few days break in between. But I do have a couple of videos planned for the rest of the month. I'm thinking of doing the best gay superhero and the best gay revenge thriller. So let me know in the comments down below if either of those sound interesting. There's 2 great movies that I have planned for each of those categories. So if you're interested, drop me a like down below, subscribe to my channel, share with your friends. And if you didn't like this video, I'm sorry, and I hope the next one is better. Whoever you are, thank you for watching anyway. And also, I've seen a couple of comments in my videos that they don't like my background. Guys, this is art. Both these paintings were made by a friend, so they're not going anywhere. If anything, I'll rotate one of them because I have a third one. I just couldn't fit them all in the frame. I also have a very temporary setting. I don't have a studio per se. I have a phone, a mic, and a dream. I dream of talking without stuttering, and you're on the other side listening. So yeah, don't expect fancy edits from me, just a lot of blabbering. I think that's it from me for today. If you like this video, don't forget, leave it a like down below, subscribe to my channel, share with your friends, comment down below, and just call me ugly. If you're watching, no, actually, say something real stupid in the comments. If you're still watching at this point, just say something really dumb. Just tell jokes. Knock knock jokes in the comments down below. I might make a video in the future just reading them out loud. And we can all have a great time reading knock knock jokes. And until next time, stay safe, stay sane, stay stupid, stay stuttering. Bye, guys. Okay, this is a bonus extra for anyone still watching. M. Night Shyamalan has a movie coming out. It's called The Trap, and it's about a man who takes his daughter to a concert, only to find out that the concert is a ploy to trap a man that's been kidnapping and killing people. Turns out it's him. And I watched the trailer, and then I went on social media, and I guess pretty much everyone guessed the twist of the movie. I think they guessed it. I guessed the same. I was like, yeah, that's pretty obvious, right? So The Trap coming soon to a cinema near you. I'm going to review that movie because I just feel it's M. Night Shyamalan. Some bullshit's going to come out of it, and it's going to be fun for us to watch. Also, let me know if any other M. Night Shyamalan movies tickle your pickle. I'm happy to review them. Anyone still watching this by now is probably in the obscure team of fans. So if you're here, you truly are a superstar and a super fan, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your support. I'm currently unemployed, so I'm just really investing in this, and I'm really trying to make this better. So if you have any suggestions, apart from changing my background, I'm not doing that, okay? Because I can't. There's nothing, trust me, I've tried. I've tried the options that I have. This is the best that we can do for now. The most I can do is change this light behind me. It used to be pink, that was a bit intense. Now I got it to a sort of a orangey red tone. But you know, we're working on it. We're workshopping things. So any suggestions, please let me know. And also, thank you again for still watching. It's still quite unreal that I'm putting myself out there so much in public. But yeah, follow me on socials. I'm a lot more active there, and you can just get to know me better if that again tickles your pickle. Yeah, thanks guys. Take care.